Hey there, YouTube friends. This is Carrie with Any Day Blessings. I apologize for a little bit of shadowing. You're going to see my hand from time to time, but it's a real rainy, dreary day, and the lighting is pretty awful where I normally record. So I'm over here on my bed, or my books are on my bed. I'm standing next to it, and so I hope the shadows aren't too distracting to you. What I'd like to do in this video is flip through of sorts, but not really. What I want to do is show you the weekly assignments, what you can expect in amount of reading, what you can expect in writing, and what kinds of activities your child is going to do. Oftentimes in these literature-based programs, we don't actually get a sense from the PDFs online of this guide what we're actually going to be reading, what those books look like. It's harder to see inside these books. It's harder to search for those. A lot of times we just get a flip through of the guide itself and we see the front of the books. So what I'm going to do is pull this away real quick, and I'm going to show you, give you just a 30-second walkthrough of Heart of Dakota in case someone's watching who's not real familiar with it. Sorry about the blinding glare there. My goodness, I don't know what to do about that, but it is really dark in here. If I turn off those lights, you're not gonna see anything, but we'll just open it up. Maybe that'll help. Okay, that's better. Okay, so Heart of Dakota is a Charlotte Mason inspired literature-based program. This particular one is for ages 7 to 9, and it goes from this time of the early settlers up through the early 1900s. This beginning stuff here that I'm just kind of flipping through is all available online for you to read, and I do encourage you to read it. It gives you an idea of why they do things the way they do. It gives you the content, the scope and sequence of the different subjects, as you can see here, so you can help figure out if this is a good place for your child to go. They do have a placement chart on their website as well. The way that Heart of Dakota is laid out is by unit. There are 34 units with 5 days per unit, so a lot of us kind of consider a unit a week's worth of work, and for the purposes of this video, that's what I'm going to do as well. 1 day's worth of work or assignments is laid out for you on this nice 2-page spread. Each box represents a different subject area, although I will say that these tend to be very interrelated. It's a little harder for you to pull out one of these subjects and do something on your own, but Heart of Dakota does understand that when it comes to reading, language arts, and math, that your student could be at a different level, and so those aren't as closely tied to the history readings and science activities, so it's a little easier to substitute those areas out for something that is more appropriate for your child. But history is definitely the anchor. It's up top here with what we call the rotating box right down below it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a sample reading about how much reading you would do per day, and then give you an idea of the activities that you would do with that reading. Now, there are 4 days of history reading assigned per week in Bigger Hearts for His Glory. The 5th day is history notebooking. Now, when this particular guide was put out, the edition that I have, there were no pre-printed notebooking pages. There are now. So I do not have them because they were not available when I purchased the guide. There is a new guide available as well, so I'll just look to see real quick here. Mine is copyright 2007, so if you have this guide, if you get it used, just know that it will not have the instructions for the notebooking pages in there. I'm sure that you can use this guide with the notebooking pages. All you would do when you get to day 5 is, instead of having your child create this notebooking page, you would just complete the pre-printed page. Okay? So just thought I'd throw that out there. When it comes to history reading, this is just a sample. I'm not going to include all the books because there are probably close to 20-25 books that come planned and scheduled with this guide, and that would be an entirely too long of a video. So this is one of them. There are 2 history books that are written by Edward Eggleston. They are public domain now, so I actually have one of them on my computer downloaded to read, and then this one here is actually from our library. But isn't this just so charming? I think this is so sweet. This is copyright 1895. It even has like little frayed bits here. I absolutely love this. picture sitting in a little prairie one-room schoolhouse reading my history reader. Isn't this just so charming? I mean, probably a little child, a 7-year-old child, wouldn't find this as charming as I do, but you never know. Somebody might have a history buff kid like that thinks that's cool. This came from my library, but they are free online if you would like to read that way. When you get a history assignment, this is about how much reading you'll have. Let me just show you real quick. They're written in story format, so hence the name Stories of Great Americans. So this would be 1 day's worth of reading. That's it. Okay, here's another day's worth of reading. Oh, I skipped a page. Hold on, I think I skipped 2 pages, you guys. Let's go back and look. Okay, so here's one. These pages stick together, awful. 2, 3, 4, 5, and a little bit more. Some is a little longer. Then here's another day's worth of reading. Here. Okay, and that's what you'll get from the 2 Eggleston books, okay? Neither are in color. The Memoria Press has put out one that has a little bit more of color in it, but it's still mostly black and white. And the version that Heart of Dakota puts out is as well. So this is a good sample of how much reading you would be doing in a daily history lesson in the Read About History. And then all that is asked for in that history box is for you to read this and then go over the key idea with your child. No narration is asked for in the history lesson, okay? When you get to day 5, there will be some notebooking activity for, like I showed you already, for you to do with your child based on the week's worth of readings, but also each day there is an activity, either geography, art, vocabulary, usually some sort of a game or hands-on activity, and timeline. You will do all of those activities based on what you read. So I usually think of this all in one. I usually think of this as my reading, and then this is my application. That's usually how I tend to do Heart of Dakota history. I tend to do these 2 boxes together. Down below, I'm actually going to leave you a list of the suggested times per guide. I meant to bring that up here with me. I'm so sorry. This is like the 4th time I've tried to make this video, and so I forgot that this time around. But I do have a suggested list of times that each box will take you. So that can tell you about how long to expect a day's worth of work to go. I think for this guide, it's about the 3 or 3.5 hour mark for all of this work. Okay? Then over here, your Bible lesson, you will read Proverbs 2, 3 to 5. And again, there are questions here for you to ask your child. There are little notes to tie this back to your history reading. So again, these are all connected. They try and do that over here on the left side of the guide, connect everything back up to that history anchor. The poetry, I'll show you in the back, just so you know. You're going to be memorizing a poem every week. They're all back here in the back for you, and this is about the length of the poem that you start with. And this is about where you finish. So it's pretty much the same. These ones getting a little bit longer, but you start to break down the poem patterns. You start to pull out some vocabulary. You start to memorize poems, do some copy work from the poems. So that is where you'll find all the poetry. No additional resource. That's all in the back of the book. You head over here to this side of the guide, and this is going to be the bulk of my video because there is a lot of variance in the type of science books that they use. They offer, I think, 5 different books for science. I have 3 here that I'm going to show you because 2 of them are the same style. And I apologize for the thunder sounds in the background. We are getting a little bit of a summer storm here. Hopefully it's not too loud, and hopefully I don't lose power. That would be bad too. All right, so let's take a look. We're going to start with the first book that's scheduled, these 1 small square books. Again, this is all intended for you to see how much reading and writing is involved in this guide. So up to this point, you've had some writing here in making a timeline or in drawing different diagrams, different geography diagrams, things like that. But up to this point, you really haven't had any true narrative, composition, original thought, creative writing assignments as yet. Even with the notebooking in history here, they tell you a lot of what to write. So it's very guided. But let's get down here to science and see how the writing changes just a little bit. So I'm going to show you a week's worth of assignments, or maybe not like step by step, but I'll just kind of talk this through to you as I flip through this resource. The assignments down here are going to go like this in science, and this is across the board for all the books. Day 1, reading and narration. Day 2, science and notebooking. Day 3, reading and experimentation. Day 4, reading and narration. Day 5, reading and experimentation. So 2 experiments, 2 days worth of just reading and narration, no writing there, and 1 day of science notebooking, okay? So 3 days that involve writing of some amount, and I'll try and break that down for you a little bit here. Okay, so here's 1 day's worth of reading, 2-page spread. Here's another day's worth of reading, and here's another day's worth of reading. So you see, again, not very much, a lot of pictures. This is a great book to start off with because it's very bright, colorful, and small chunks of reading, especially if you're starting out on the lower end of the guide. One of your the lower age range of the guide. Okay, I want to show you here something. Where was that picture at? It was having you draw. I read this. Well, let me just flip over. Maybe it'll tell me on this page. Yeah, page 6. I didn't go back far enough. Okay, so here's an example of your science notebooking assignment. It says on page 6 to write a Bible verse, Psalm 95:5, I believe, yes, 95:5, and then beneath the verse, you're going to copy these 2 diagrams. So that's a science notebooking, not as much writing as it is drawing all the time. Now, sometimes there will be writing, and we'll get to that, but in this particular notebooking assignment, it's copy work of a verse and drawing and labeling these diagrams, okay? So that would be a week's worth of work in this book. Those 5 reading assignments I showed you, a couple days of narration, a couple days of notebooking in that style, and experiments that are very well laid out for you. They even walk you through the process of write the word procedure, then write the word guess. They're starting to teach them the scientific process, and they're starting to teach them the terminology. I think later on they do get to hypothesis instead of guess. Let's go up to Unit 6, and I'm going to show you how science is done in this book a little bit differently, okay? Now, the time period, again, that is covered here is explorers all the way up through early 1900s. So they will bring in the colonial American scientific discoveries, and there were lots there. If you think of Benjamin Franklin and his contemporaries, here are some of the topics covered. Sorry about my shadow. I'll move back a little. Okay. Now let's take a look at what a day's worth of reading is here. Okay, let's see. Read pages 10 to 11. So let me read over here. 10 to 11. So here's 1 day's worth of reading in this book. And, oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm not in the right. There we are. Sorry. Let's go. Let me start at the beginning of a week. Okay, so here's where you would start a new week in science in colonial America. So your assignment would be reading pages 12 to 13. So here we go. Up to there, 12 to 16, sorry. So that was your assignment. 2 full pages and 2 kind of half pages of reading, okay? And then the notebooking for this one, let's take a look. The notebooking in this one is actually a little more writing. So they're going to create 2 columns. And they're going to come back to pages 15 and 16 that they read the previous day. And the instructions are to pull out some information to write in the appropriate columns. So there is some writing that they have to find the information in the text here and then go and put it in the correct column. So a little bit different style of notebooking when you get to this book. going to show you this activity here. They're going to read 3 pages. I'll show you a couple more reading assignments in this book. Okay, so this would be the reading assignment for this day's worth of work. Okay, so that's the reading assignment. And then look at this experiment, you guys. I don't know, you probably can't read this fine print. Let me hold it up here a little bit. Okay, is that gonna... Okay, do you see all this italic print? That is, let me point to the word. It says here, see that right there? Say. It tells you exactly what to say. This is completely scripted. If you aren't a very science savvy mama and you don't know about T cells and B cells and you're not sure really what to say, they give you a scripted teacher's lesson, but they don't give you a huge teacher manual. This is your teacher's manual every day, this little box. So you're not getting out a separate huge volume to do a science lesson. You're just simply reading this short paragraph to your child, reading the 3 to 4 pages out of this book and doing this activity with them. And it gives you what to say all the way down. So very easy for mama, all well planned out. But it was a little bit different than the first book, so I wanted to show you what a notebooking lesson would be like using the science in colonial America and how much reading was there. Now, you will notice as we progress, so we're going up to Unit 20 here, okay, to show you this last science book, up to Unit 20. So again, this would be about week 20 if you're doing 5 days a week, 1 day's worth of work per day. This would be probably just past Christmas time if you school September to May. This would be past the halfway point in your school year. You get to this book, okay? There's more reading in this book. The print is smaller. The pages are not color, but there are lots of illustrations and charts and things like that. So the assignment in this book, they do assign more reading, but again, you are to the second half of your school year, so they kind of work you up to it. Oops, this came from the library, you guys, and it's not in the best condition. Okay, so this is what I love about this book. I think this book could be just its own. I think that you could just use this for a science and history combined course. You could really make a nice study out of this book. It's a really neat resource. The reading is narrative. This is a story. You can see the quotations and the conversation. So this would be your reading in this book. Okay, this is still all one assignment that I'm flipping through here. So we're getting more reading, but again, we're further into the year. That's your reading for one day. Okay, let me flip through to a notebooking assignment in this book. Okay, we're going to go to page 29 and we're going to copy this diagram. We're going to write Job verse 14:7 and copy this diagram. And we're going to label it, color it, and store this in a notebook. There's no additional reading. There's no additional discussion or questions, just that drawing, okay? So they kind of balance out all of that reading with a lighter notebooking assignment. So I really like that. It's not kind of 2 days back to back of a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? They really do with the varied structure of their science lessons. They really do kind of they don't put the heavier days back to back. They kind of bring in some variety. Let me just show you another day's worth of reading. 46 to 51. Let's show you that one. Again, lots of charts and small pictures. Although they're in black and white, they're really engaging pictures. I think any child would be okay with this. Even my gotta have pictures kiddo. That's 1 day's worth of reading. So again, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So that would be your science reading for the day, and then you'd ask for a narration. And then your final day of the week would be another experiment. Still having your child work on that scientific process of procedure, procedure, conclusion, things like that. So those are the expected assignments. What kind of reading assignments you can expect, how much writing you can expect. I just want to flip back here real quick. I want to show you, because language arts isn't really, there's really not much said about language arts here. It just gives you assignments, but I wanted to show you in the back, it does give you some narration helps, and it does give you some spelling help back here. So it tells you to do spelling 3 days a week, and then it tells you to do grammar and handwriting every day each week, but only 3 days a week with spelling, and you choose one or the other. You either choose a spelling list or you choose a dictation passage. You don't do both, okay? Now, I guess you could do both, but this is the dictation passage for the first week. Here are the instructions for how to do it. So there's not a lot of instruction for language arts up front. You got to kind of come to the back for reading, literature, spelling, poetry. All that's in the back, okay? So if you're looking up front and you think, man, they don't really have much for language arts, this is where you end up for the dictation passages towards the end of the guide, okay? So actually, you know what? You guys? I think they list all of them out there. I don't know. I've never used the dictation. I only use the spelling list, so I haven't used the dictation before, but there's 100. I just saw there were 100 dictation passages, so maybe, or 102. So I don't know. I'm going to look into that and see. Maybe they just offer you varying levels, like if these ones are too simple for them. I'm trying to read ahead here and see if it says why there's so many dictation passages. Maybe you just get to pick one where you think that your child is. I'm going to have to look into that. If somebody knows why there are so many dictation passages, maybe, are you supposed to do one a day? Maybe you're supposed to do one a day. That doesn't seem right, you guys. Let me just look. Let's just look together. Okay, so, if you choose dictation, follow the directions. Oh, okay, so you're supposed to follow these directions. It doesn't say why there's so many. It just says when the student feels ready, have them write it out and then give them a new passage. So maybe they just provide a lot of these in case students move through them quicker. Maybe some students would move through 2 or 3 dictation passages a week. I'm learning right now as we go because I've never done the dictation. I've only done the spelling lists. So if you know about those and maybe how fast a child moves through them, please leave that below so other people can find that. The other thing I wanted to show you that was back here is the poetry. I think I showed you at the beginning, but we start off with about a poem that size, and we end up with a poem with usually about 3 stanzas. So that is all in the back. So if you're thinking that language arts is a little scant, it's not. There's just so much of it in the back. There's actually a whole list of readers and comprehension questions to go with the daily assignments. A whole schedule. What to read each day in the reader, comprehension questions, all in the back of this guide. If you want to use this with an older child, like say you have a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, you actually can use this. Where is it at? Let me see if I can find it. Might be in front of the spelling. You can actually, this is the emerging readers. I wanted the extension schedule. There it is. You can actually purchase an extension package, okay? The extension package, I'm sorry, that lighting was bad. The extension package is a set of books that's a little bit higher level, and you can use that to beef up this guide for an older student. And they tell you about each book here, tell you the content, give you a basic overview so you know if you want to use it, but then back here they give you a schedule. Day 1, have your older student read this, okay? All the way through, you guys, they have this schedule to beef up this guide for an older student, all in the back. So the appendix is really a goldmine. I really think there's a lot of good stuff back there. I'm going to wrap this up. We're already almost at 25 minutes, so if you're still sticking around, thank you so much. Please go ahead and subscribe if you have not. I try to really give in-depth, meaningful curriculum walkthroughs, things that I am looking for when I go to look at a video. Please let me know if you have any questions. Go ahead and like this video if you have not yet. And stay tuned. Next up, I think I'm planning to do a walkthrough of GeoMatters, actually, our geography curriculum. I could only find one YouTube video on the curriculum that we chose for geography from GeoMatters. So you can stay tuned for that. Hopefully I'll have that up in a week or so. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.